and welcome to We Got Options with the Doctor and Son. Today, we are going to have a wonderful conversation, and this conversation is going to be around my current book that's going to be released in December 2023. And the book is called Fragile Brokenness: The Unspoken Secrets That Shaped a Pretty Unprotected Girl into a Practicing Clinician and Therapist. So today I wanted to just introduce, of course, me, Dr. Latasha McElwain, and have a conversation with Tremaine in regards to what the book meant and the whole process of starting the book, and then also talk a little bit about, of course, what the book is about. And then, of course, talking about what we have coming up in the next year or so as we are coming into December 2023, and we are going to be going into January 2024, into the new year soon. And so wanted to just kind of talk about future plans that we have and things that we have going on for our businesses that we do operate. So many of you probably know that, yes, We Got Options with the Doctor and Son is Dr. Latasha McElwain and Tremaine Green. And we are a family that actually started with our first company, Insightful Options. And that's a business that we created in order to have my private practice abilities and all the good stuff that we're able to do there with counseling, basically on the forefront of services in Charlotte, North Carolina. We were also practicing some out in South Carolina as well. And with that, we ended up doing a few different things, having different offices across North Carolina, and then, like I said, the office in South Carolina, and then decided to pull back a little bit just so that I could finish my doctoral degree, and then to be able to go into some other areas, which we have definitely been fortunate enough to start our own nonprofit and have several different initiatives to go with the nonprofit that we do have, which is the Green McElwain Foundation. And then we also were able to pretty much open a properties business as well, with real estate property, Green McElwain Properties. And with that, many of you know, or maybe many of you may not know, Tremaine has his special need. He has cerebral palsy, and Michael, my youngest son, he was diagnosed with mild autism. So both of my boys do deal with a disability, or pretty much have their own abilities with that, because both of them help me to grow in my businesses and give me a whole lot of insight in different things just to keep me focused and keep me going. And they are my little worker bees in the background, along with my team, my internship team and my supervision team. Tremaine and Michael really helps out a lot. So when I wanted to write a book a few years back, I was kind of having writer's block. And with having writer's block, I just was not able to get it out on paper. And I made a promise to myself that in August, I was going to start the beginning of writing this book, and I was going to be finished with it before December. And December is going to be my release month. So what I ended up doing was went in head first, full force, hired me someone to help me to guide me with my writing. So I had to hire an individual to come in and co-write the book with me. And it's Mr. Kevin Taylor. He was able to assist me with co-writing the book and keeping me focused and on point, and doing interviews with me to keep me in the process of understanding what I'm doing, and kind of just to stay focused with everything. Because I will tell anyone I was totally not focused, okay? Or just couldn't keep up with what I was really trying to do and the purpose of doing everything that I was working on. So he was there to keep me focused and keep moving forward. So in December, we are releasing the book Fragile Brokenness. And it's basically a memoir of my life and how I grew up, how I went through my years, through my education, as well as having my sons in between those years, and doing all the good things that I have been able to do. And just being thankful that I'm in a position that I could actually share that story with other people is major for me. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to write the book. And then, of course, a few months later from December, probably around March and April of 2024, I'll also be dropping two other books, which will be one will be my dissertation that I did for my doctoral degree. I will be turning that into a book. And this next one would be a paper I did in undergrad, my senior investigation paper. And that also was a great experience to do that. But in all of the books, when I think about what I'm, getting ready to embark on as an author, I am really sharing my lived experience with people versus giving a whole lot of what is coming out of a textbook or what is being taught in the classroom per se. That is like quote unquote book knowledge. I'm kind of putting my lived experience on paper. That also creates, of course, a legacy of information, intellectual properties, and things of that nature that will go on and live hopefully years and years and years past the years that I am currently alive. But this is something great that I feel like I want to give back to my profession, to my family, to the world in general, for me being able to live this life that I currently live and do the things that I'm currently doing, and being blessed with the two sons with special needs that I'm blessed with, because, a lot of families, don't know what to do and things of that nature. And I think I've been very aware. I've advocated for my sons. I've advocated for myself. I've definitely been on the forefront of getting my education and making sure everything is definitely a go for us, and just making sure that I was definitely putting myself in a place of just knowing what's next and how to kind of transition, how to navigate through different areas and, different things of that nature. So I would like to say that's one of the reasons why writing the book was near and dear to me, and writing the other books will still be near and dear to me, and continuing on writing books will be something that I will do, because like I said, a lot of times, yes, we do research and I do research things, but a lot of times I think the lived experience is a major thing to think about when we're listening to people's lives or listening to experiences and things of that nature. So, Tremaine, that was a long introduction I just gave, but I wanted to see if you wanted to chime in before we go to a commercial break right quick.
I don't think I have anything to say, particularly. More your experience.
Okay, good deal. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into a commercial break, and we'll come back after these messages with more information about Fragile Brokenness, Dr. Latasha McElwain's first released book that will be released in December of 2023. Dr. Latasha McElwain's professional consulting services. Dr. Latasha McElwain has become an elite and esteemed professional in her field of counseling psychology. She provides consultation in counseling and business practices, as well as providing supervision, consultation to professionals in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Please reach out to drlatashamcElwain.com, 704-492-1105. And we're back with We Got Options with the Doctor and Son. And today we're talking about my book that's going to be released in December 2023, Fragile Brokenness. So today what I'm going to do is just basically talk about the book and give some insight to what everyone can look forward to. And I'm sure Tremaine will jump in and probably ask some questions here or give some comments about what we're speaking of. So, for starters, the book is really just me deciding to, again, put my information out there as far as a memoir of what has occurred in my life. And I think I'm at a point where, a point in my career where I decided I wanted to, I always say this, I practice what I preach, and I try to practice what I preach all the time. And I tell folks all the time that, that's something I do, something I feel wholeheartedly about. But one of the things I always say when I do, kind of share my story with people is that, I've been through a lot, and I know I've been through a lot. And I know in going through a lot, something pushed me into the area of wanting to be a therapist, wanting to be a counselor. And with that being said, a lot of those experiences really were the experiences that you will hear about and I will share throughout the book, Fragile Brokenness, where I really went into pretty much eight chapters of information that's really about me and talking about how my life kind of brought me here and put me in the current place that I am. And so, starting with chapter one is about pretty much a pretty little girl. And it's going to give you a good bit of information about how I grew up and how my mindset was kind of shaped as a little girl, and how things were kind of spoken. No, things were kind of understood but never spoken. So it was a lot of things that were kind of like you just understood that you were supposed to do this and do that. There were really no explanations for different things. So chapter one really goes through a process of finding out who Dr. Latasha McElwain is, or who little Latasha is, I'm sorry, who little Latasha was, and really me going back and kind of putting out there, those are the things in my earlier years that as I look back and reflect on it now, I realize that it was pushing me in the direction of wanting to be, or eventually becoming, a counselor, or just wanting to help people. So I didn't know I was going to be a counselor back then, but as a little girl, I always wanted to help people. So that was something that was that was definitely growing inside of me. And I grew up at home with my family being, a very pretty little girl, and, being told I was pretty and understanding I was pretty and all this other stuff. Not that I ever really thought I was beautiful, but I thought I was even pretty. But that's what I heard a lot of as a little young girl. And so I was just going back on and reflecting on some of those things that occurred back then. Chapter two goes into where my life kind of switched over a little bit. And when my life switched over, I kind of, the name of chapter two is This Girl's on Fire. And it really gives you an idea of, how you can go from being that innocent little girl to all of a sudden, and you're not really understanding what's going on. And then you become that, more adolescent ages, get into your teen years, and you become this different person. And I really felt like I, did that as I reflect back on my childhood, that I, kind of flipped from one person to another in a way, but not in a drastic way that was, it was unrecognizable when I look back at it. But a lot of things happened in that process from chapter one to chapter two that actually, started this little girl being on fire all of a sudden. And, a lot of things went on that helped to, shape where I'm at now, and, started shaping my lifestyle and everything else. But another thing that I want to jump into is talking about chapter three right quick. Chapter three was then that time in my life where I was out of character and off script. So whatever I thought was little Latasha, at some point things started changing and going out of character for who I was. And then it started going off script. I wasn't on script anymore. And I didn't know if being on script or off script was correct, but I was in that predicament sometimes. I didn't know if being in character or out of character was correct, but I knew I was in that predicament also. So that's kind of how things kind of spiraled into the different things that have happened in my life over the years. And then when we get to chapter 4, we're talking about it's a different world. And just like the college show, it's a different world from the 90s. That's kind of where my life started looking different. And I started seeing outside of my home more, not only outside of my home, but outside of my little small town, because I was in college at that time. And when I got to college, things was just totally different for me, which was a big change. And so yeah, it was a different world from where I came from. So, and it was a big world. It was a lot more to do, and a lot more to consider. So it was definitely an experience to talk about. So sharing that experience as I reflect back on it, coming to Johnson C. Smith University is one of the best things I ever did for myself and did for my family, I believe, because it really helped me to develop and grow. And I'm glad I didn't, kind of chickened out and decided not to go. I'm glad I came, and did what I did, and building as I'm building in this city currently, still today. And then chapter 5 talks about my extra, 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 but pretty much it's extra, extra, two extras. I would say three extras because I'm pretty much three extras, extra, extra, and extra. But that chapter talks really about Dr. Latasha, younger Latasha, the whole gamut of me, and how I perceive things and do things in life. And one of the things in chapter 5, going into chapter 6, you'll realize that I started dealing the whole book. I'm dealing with my mental health and concerns as well, throughout the whole book. But in 5 and 6 is when I started seeing myself as the adult more so, and having to deal with adult things and deal with things in an adult way. So 5 and 6 really starts to dig a little bit more into who I am as Dr. Latasha, young lady Latasha, child Latasha, all these Latashas growing into this one Dr. Latasha. And chapter 6 is she doesn't need me. So chapter 5 talks about how extra I could be. And that extra sometimes didn't just mean that I was all over the place and extra about things, but sometimes it meant that I was doing more than was necessary for people or other people than I was even doing for myself. So I was putting people first. So that's a big part of chapter 5. And then going into chapter 6, talking about she doesn't need me, is talking about some of the relationships that I dealt with, in the past. And some of these relationships were, and I will say this, throughout the book, you will see some repeats of things, but it's things that needed to be repeated because technically there are things that I did not let go. And now getting to a place where I'm going to mention this next chapter, which is unsettled traumas, getting to chapter 7. And 5, 6, and 7 is starting to repeat those things and kind of realize that, oh my goodness, I'm not necessarily over some things, but I'm dealing with some other things. And it's like becoming a lot for me. And I'm starting to really, kind of cave in for the most part. And I think that was a big part when we started talking in chapter 6 and 7 about me starting to develop a little bit more of this, and going into chapter 8 when we started talking about me developing more of my emotional intelligence and starting to realize that, oh my goodness, I was thinking this. I was thinking that this was functional all along in my life because this is how I grew up. And now I'm meeting individuals, people in my life that's telling me that's not functional, that's dysfunctional. And it's not them being mean or having a way of, how some people say certain things are dysfunctional, certain things are, normal and abnormal, or functional or dysfunctional or whatever. No, what they were saying were things that were definitely a point where I had to wake up and say, oh my goodness, they're right. That thing that I'm doing, that thing that I'm saying, or that response that I'm giving is definitely not a adequate response for that scenario, that situation. And I can look at it and I can do it better. But I really have to think about it, and I have to start putting it into my repertoire, that doing it this way will give me a better outcome and will let other people know that I respect them and they respect me, and it'll be a better, conversation or situation versus me being all on a high horse that it's going to go my way or no way. So, and I don't think I was necessarily as rough as that, but in some scenarios, in some instances, especially in some of my relationships, I did, in the book, it'll say that I was a boss before being a boss was even cool. I was a thing. But yeah, that was something definitely to think about. But there were a lot of different things there. And I think the biggest part of the book in general, at least getting to the part where where chapter 8 is free your mind, is really getting to a point of kind of opening up and realizing that I wasn't always right in scenarios and situations and relationships. And so, with that being said, the book really shows how I've grown and shows a lot of my growth. And I think it's very important to have something like this to really show people how authentic I am in the work that I do, not only being authentic, but just being genuine and really, really, having my lived experience and talking with you from a standpoint of no, it could go one way or the other, and it's all going to probably depend on how you're going to view it and how you're going to perceive the whole situation, and that you can figure out which is going to be the best for you. But in actuality, you have to figure it out for yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing that I did for myself with writing this book and releasing that level of I guess vulnerability in this book, is just letting people know that things happen. Sometimes you don't know, and sometimes you know, and then sometimes it just clicks in your head, and you start to understand, and you realize that all of my experiences have led up to this. So, Tremaine, I'm sorry again, I have not checked to see if you had anything you wanted to add before we go to a commercial break. But any thoughts that you have right now? Anything you want to add in?
Uh, sure. I mean, it's fascinating to hear about how things, I guess, was before I was born,
Yes.
how our family was, and how things were.
Yeah, yeah. And we were a growing family. So before you were born, family was we were very close knit. We were closer. I'll put it like that. We were closer. We were all under one roof before you were born, Tremaine. So yeah, after you were born, so a couple of years before you were born, actually, we weren't under the same roof anymore. We kind of, split. The families, split. My mother ended up moving into her own place, and my grandmother left with her set of children. So then, I became that latchkey kid at a certain age. I think it was about 9 years old. So yeah. And that's, a few years later, you came into the picture where that was kind of the scenario. No, grandma wasn't living, I mean, mommy wasn't living with grandma, but you were definitely exposed to kind of that going back and forth that I was exposed to, as in going from grandma house to, from my house to grandma house a lot. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, we just, this book really shines a light on how much I, as a counselor, have grown as a counselor, as a parent, as a therapist, as a daughter, as the mother, as as a professional, as a personal person in relationships, friendships, the whole nine, romantic relationships and everything. And so, like I said, I wanted to be really in tune with people and in tune with everyone when I wrote the book. I just really wanted to make sure I was doing a good thing as far as being able to share and be genuine with who I am as a person. And of course, why I choose to be in this field and why I love it so much and enjoy the different avenues that I'm able to, go down and experience also. So this again is my first book. And I plan to launch a few more, release a few more within the next year or so. And we will go on from there. But at this time, we're going to go ahead and take a commercial break, and we'll be back after these messages. We got options with the doctor and son, a family conversation discussing mental health and wellness topics weekly with a variety of special guest appearances. Join us every Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. on www.wdrbmedia.com. And we're back with We Got Options with the Doctor and Son. And today we're finalizing our conversation that we're talking about with the release of my new book, Fragile Brokenness. And I wanted to give some information, first off, of how people would be able to get the book, how you'd be able to get the book in your hands. So we are doing orders for the book at www.insightful-options.com. You can go there, and if you click on Fragile Brokenness and the 31 Days Mental Health Wellness Journal, you would be able to order the book, and you will be able to order a journal. We will have several other journals listed as the month goes on in December and January, of course, all through the new year. We are releasing different companion journals to go along with the books that I'll be releasing. So we got a lot of fun stuff happening. So if you want to get information, you can always go to www.insightful-options.com. You can also go to www.drlatashamcawayne.com. And you can also go to greenmcawaynefoundation.org. So all of these, all of our websites is where you can get information about the book, and you can do your order for the book on Insightful Options website. And if you do have any questions and you want to give us a call and find out more information or anything about our services, you can also give us a call at 704-492-1105. So again, all of our information is available. Of course, we're on YouTube under Insightful Options, and we're on YouTube under Insightful Options 1. We are on Facebook under Dr. Latasha McAwayne. We are under Insightful Options, and we are under the Green McAwayne Foundation on Facebook. On Instagram, we are under the GM Foundation. Make sure I got that right. The GM_Foundation on Instagram. On LinkedIn, of course, Dr. Latasha McAwayne on LinkedIn. And on TikTok, let me see if I can get it going here. I'm I am so unprofessional at dealing with social media that I have to look at everything if I'm giving it to you. So on TikTok, we're at Insightful Options, all one word. So if you are interested in finding out more information and following us on any of the social media, or even as far as YouTube or on the website, that's all of our information, and you would be able to get our book, my book, Fragile Brokenness, and you will also be able to get the journals that are being created to go along with there'll be companions for the books, but there'll also just be information such as we have currently a journal it's a blank journal teaching you how to journal, because individuals sometimes want to learn how to journal. So we're going to have a blank journal with instructions of how to journal. We have our inspirational journals. We have our tips for a healthy boundaries journal. We have our depression journal, coping and dealing with depression. We have our coping with anxiety journal. We have our trauma journal, basically working on traumatic issues for the most part. We also have our gratitude journal, and we will have the challenging negative thoughts with cognitive behavior model journal. So a lot of different things there that we have coming up in the year of 2024. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and let you know that we'll be back next week with more information. It'll be information about what's to come in 2024 for all the good things that we have coming. And it'll also still be talking about the book that we are releasing, as well as the journals and a whole lot of other activities that we'll have happening in 2024. So with that being said, we thank you for joining us. We got options with the doctor and son. Have a good one.